You should know that faith is a personal matter. I shouldn't have to tell you that. That should just be something that you're aware of as a pretty much a normal thing, and that each person can be expected to have their own reasons for what they believe. This edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics is not intended to belittle or laugh at anybody. It's not intended to... I have my beliefs, but the beliefs are mine, and that's all there is to that. And obviously, you don't have to believe what I do. Again, this is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Monday, the 21st of December of 2020, and I welcome everybody who's coming in on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you for joining me today. The subject is why Christianity? And I know that this is a subject, well, okay, we have to start from a place, right, that I've already sort of laid out there. And that place is, you must make your decision based on faith. In other words, your decision isn't a matter of fact, really. It's a matter of what you in faith decide is true. You decide you have come to believe a particular thing, you have become convinced, you have become convicted of a given thing, and that's what you believe, right? Okay, cool, that's good. But now I want to talk for just a second about why I hold what I do about Christianity and why I do not live within any other or work within any of the other religious systems in the world. There are a number of systems like Taoism, like Confucianism, like Hinduism to some degree. I'll talk about Hinduism as a separate thing in a minute. But there are a number of systems that, okay, there's this odd concept that I want to introduce, and this will help to explain what I'm saying about these systems. So let me do that first. You do things, you go to work because it benefits you. You have family, maybe not so much because it benefits you exactly, though it actually does, because if your family grows to be adults, they take care of you in your old age. That's a reality. That's one of the reasons you have family. Okay. They live with you, they stay with you, they work with you until they're old enough to do otherwise because it benefits them, right? This is much of life, and I believe that what you believe has a component, at least, for which this is also the case. So now getting back to the idea of Hinduism, of shamanism, of Wicca, and various other beliefs that people hold, I will say this. In the end, if you look at what they gain you, it isn't much. And I'll go as far as to say that that's true even for Buddhism. Buddhism, there's the old joke of the guy at the hot dog stand asking for the guy to make him one with everything, and the guy he disappears or whatever, right? Because that's what Buddhism basically says is you reach nirvana, you reach that state where you just kind of blend in with the rest of the universe, and it's all over. Sikhism, to me, is not totally the same because it has a belief in one God, but the problem is that I don't know of any way that Sikhism says that you can actually have communion, if you will, with that God. So the only three belief sets that I'm aware of that actually offer what would be argued to be a benefit are Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. They're the only three I know. Now, here's the thing. If you believe in Islam, you believe in something that A, started well after either of the other two, and that's saying something because Christianity is relatively new, okay? And that B, there's no reason to believe that it should have ever come into existence. It just sort of happened. Now, to be fair, that's technically sort of true of Judaism, except that it was sort of expected and stated to always have been there. There were those who had communion, who had relationships with God, and that those people consistently had those relationships with God. They were there, and that was life. Okay? Christianity, Christians believe, a lot of Jews, if not all, well, not all Jews, because there are those who are considered completed or fulfilled or whatever you want to call them. But the ones who are not, I think typically do not believe that Christianity is what's called for in the Jewish texts. Christians, I think, if they're more informed, do believe that's the case. They believe that Christianity is called for in the Jewish texts, and that you can see instances like in one of the Psalms I know, where the description of Jesus on the cross is what looks to be what's happening there, and Isaiah 53, where they're talking about Jesus's torment and suffering and so forth, and various things that he's going through while he's on the earth, right? And so the point is that Christianity makes the claim, whether correctly or incorrectly, I believe correctly, that it was foretold by Judaism. Islam has no such statement of reality. It just sort of suddenly came to be one day with a supposed prophet. Christianity has a guy in Jesus called Christ who claims to be, as I get it, in every way I understand it, more than man. He claims to be God with us. Emmanuel, God with us. Okay? And so, when I look at Islam, I go, no, that one really doesn't work either. So looking at Buddhism, looking at Taoism, looking at Shamanism, looking at Wicca, and many others, I come to the conclusion that they don't really offer you any benefit. You become a Buddhist or you don't, and you still get squashed and come back again. You know, you're a bug, you get squashed and come back again, whatever, right? You look at shamanism, you're looking at the various spirits around you. You look at Taoism, and you're looking to follow a given direction or set of directions. You look at Confucianism, the same. You look at Hinduism, it's not really one thing. There are a bunch of things encompassed in Hinduism, and therefore you can't really say, oh, Hinduism is a single thing, right? So that's not a thing. You look at Sikhism, like I say, the problem is I don't see any way that you actually commune with God, and I honestly don't see any way that Sikhism makes it so that you ultimately gain from it. It's an interesting idea, but I don't see any way that you actually gain from it. Now, that's not a requirement, okay, that you gain from it. But the point is that in the case of, in the case of Islam, in the case of Christianity, in the case of Judaism, in the case of all three, there are, as it were, benefits for being a child of the God in whom you believe. I don't believe in Islam for multiple reasons, and I could go into very strong detail on that. Suffice to say that as far as I'm concerned, it just sort of popped up one day with a guy named Muhammad. I know that a lot of people consider him a prophet. I'm not trying to argue that. That they consider him that. I disagree that he is, but that's their right to believe that he is, and I'm not going to try and say that they don't have that right. With regard to Judaism, I believe that Judaism was not deprecated per se, but sort of became what is Christianity today. And I believe that the Jews who still hold with Judaism are mistaken. Now, let's be clear on something. In my mind, for Christians, there is virtually no excuse for treating somebody badly, for abusing somebody, for hurting somebody, or whatever, on the basis strictly of what they believe, unless that person actually attacks you. And even then there's a question as to whether or not you have the right to do that. But there's certainly, as a general thing, that you can't do that. You can't go around hurting people, attacking people, or whatever. I can disagree with you. You can disagree with me. That's perfectly acceptable as far as I'm concerned, and I hope it's acceptable for you as well. If it's not, I'm sorry to hear that that's the case. But this is why I hold with Christianity as I look at the three that actually have promise, and they are Islam, again, Judaism, and, well, it should be Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And I see Islam as being a sort of a pretender, and I know the Islamic folks don't believe that, and I get that, I accept that they're in that place. I consider Judaism to have been sort of supplanted, I guess you could sort of argue, by Christianity, and therefore I consider Christianity to be the final place that you can go. Okay, I need to wrap up, and I'm going to go ahead and do that today. I hope that this has been instructive, at least in helping you to understand how a Christian might look at Christianity and see it as the thing that they believe in. I wanted yet again to thank you for coming and watching me on Rumble, listening to me on the podcast, or watching me on YouTube. And I wanted to hope that you have a good work week, considering today is Monday, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Monday, the 21st of December of 2020. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.